frequently asked questions in the third part of the IELTS test.
Transportation. Can you describe the transportation in your city? What kind of transportation do you prefer and why? What is the difference between transportation means, such as planes, trains, and cars? Can you compare the transportation in the past and now? What are the benefits and disadvantages of buying a car? Can you imagine transportation in the future and describe it to me?
Music. Do you prefer to listen to music alone or with friends? What is the role music plays in our life? What kind of music do you like and why? Is music important in your life? Why is it easier for children to learn music than adults? Do you think it is useful for a child to learn to play a musical instrument?
Natural beauty. Can you describe a popular place of natural beauty in your country? What can we do to protect the natural beauty of the country? What measures has the government taken to protect natural scenery? What is an ideal place of natural beauty for you?
Food. Do you like cooking, and what is your favorite dish? What kind of eating habits do you have? Tell me something about food in China. Would you prefer to eat with friends or to eat alone? What is the difference between meals people have today and in the past? What are the benefits and disadvantages of inviting people to eat at home or in a restaurant? In what way do you think people will change their eating habits in the future? What do you think of science in food production?
Gifts. What do you think is the best present for children? When do people usually exchange gifts in China? Compare the gifts given today with those given 20 years ago. How important are brand names when you are buying gifts? Do you think that advertisements help people make choices? What kinds of gifts do you think would be popular in the future?
Friends. By what ways do people make friends? What is the difference between adults making friends and children making friends? What is the most important factor you need to think about when you make friends? What are the possible reasons which cause friends to break up? How important is friendship to people and why?
Family. What is the typical structure of a Chinese family? Would you consider your family a typical Chinese family, and why? What are the advantages and disadvantages of traditional families in China? What are the differences of families in the past and today, and what caused the changes? Can you compare the lifestyle of your grandparents' generation with that of yours? Does the government have any policies to deal with family relationships? Can you imagine what families will be like in the future?
Reading. In what way does reading help people? Do you discuss your reading with your friends? Compare the popular readings now with those 20 years ago. How important is reading to people? Are e-books more preferred than paper books, and why?
Clothes. What kind of clothes do people like to wear nowadays? What is the difference between weekday clothes and weekend clothes? Can you tell me something about the clothes students wear nowadays? What is the attitude that old people have towards youngsters' clothes? Can you imagine clothes in the future? Is it very important to follow the latest fashion?
Sports. Can you describe the benefits of taking sports? Why do people support certain sports teams? What is the importance of sporting competitions at the international level? Do you agree that sports should be a hobby only instead of a career? What do you think of the commercial activities of sports stars? What is the role of the government in providing funding for sports facilities? Why do some companies sponsor sports people and events?
Skills. Are there traditional skills in your country, and what are they? Do you think it is necessary to learn these traditional skills? What can the government do to preserve traditional skills? What is the most important skill nowadays? What kinds of skills are popular in your country?
Accommodation. What kind of accommodation do you prefer? What are the advantages and disadvantages of living in your place? What is the difference between your grandfather's house and your building? What changes would you like to make to your place? Can you imagine what your home will be like in 20 years?
Buildings. What are people's attitudes towards old buildings? Should we preserve old traditional buildings, and why? What characteristics should a perfect building have? What roles do old and modern buildings play in the society? Can you compare buildings 20 years ago and buildings today?
News. How do you find out about news every day? How important is it to you to keep up with the news every day? What type of international news are you interested in? What is the main function of the newspaper? Can you compare news from TV, radio, the internet, and newspapers? Do you think that the newspaper is reliable as a source of information? How much do you believe in the news? How much power do you think journalists have in influencing the readers?
Festivals. What is the media's role in festivals in your country? Can you compare the festivals celebrated in China and those celebrated in Western countries? What are the typical ways that people celebrate the main festival in your country? How important is it for people to have festivals?
Weather. Which season do you like the best and why? How does weather influence people's lives? Do you like hot countries or cold countries, and why? How important is the weather forecast in our lives? What do you think of global warming?
Study. Is there any difference between study in the past and study now? Should schools teach non-academic courses? Why is learning English very useful nowadays? How important is study for children? Is it useful for old people to continue to study too?
Modern technology. Tell me some of the machines we use in our homes today. What are the negative effects technology has on people? Can you tell me any of the negative effects technology has had on the individual? Do you agree with the idea that we are too dependent on technology today? Can you compare the attitudes of men and women to technology? How much of today's technology will still be used in 50 years' time?
Tourism. What are the typical ways that people take holidays in your country? Are holiday expectations now different from those of your parents, grandparents? Why are holidays very important for people? Can you describe some main tourist attractions? What are the effects of tourism on local people and their environment? Can you talk about the future changes in tourism 10 years from now? What measures could be taken to reduce the negative effects of tourism?